Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here and welcome to BBallBreakdown. What an amazing game last night. It was epic, one to remember, and a closeout game as the Spurs ended the Thunder's season. And here's the thing, I'm not nitpicking on the Thunder's plays and their mistakes, I don't feel, because they themselves want to be judged as title contenders. And if that's the case, then it's not good enough to rest on your laurels of what you've done against the bottom 25 or 26 teams in the league. You're talking about having to play the top 2 or 3 teams in a playoff series and make consistent good decisions, of which they haven't done. They've got a real problem, I think, with Serge Ibaka not really knowing how to play offense. And I've seen enough evidence now through the playoffs where he just seems lost sometimes. And I think it's an issue which might explain why their offense isn't more clever or have more action to it. You also have Russell Westbrook, who consistently makes amazing plays, but balances those out often with really not smart plays at all, and the kind of plays that will hurt you against a great team like the Spurs. Then you have KD, who's relegated to spectator status a lot of the time, and I think that a lot of this has to do with Scott Brooks and what he's put in. And I don't know if his hands are tied with the personnel he's got, but as it is now, I'm convinced this is as far as the Thunder are going to get in the playoffs as currently constituted. Let's pick it up with the Spurs up 2 and 3 minutes left in regulation. It takes a few seconds to get all 5 guys to get on the same page with what play they're running, even though it's a simple high pick and roll. Because there was no movement first, it's easier for the Spurs to contain it, and Danny Green makes a nice play to knock the ball away from Russ, forcing the turnover. Now let's look at Kevin Durant's shot chart in the second half to get a handle on his shot distribution. In the third quarter, he got 4 shots relatively evenly spaced throughout, but well below his playoff average in attempts. In the fourth, he got another 4 shot attempts that were evenly spaced, and this was shockingly right at his playoff average. I would think he'd get more shots than this the way OKC's offense is designed. But now let's look at the quarter splits with Russell Westbrook in mind, and we'll use per 48 minutes to mitigate for playing time inequality. In the fourth quarter of all playoff games, Russ is taking 31.4 shots per 48, while KD is taking 29.1. Not that far off, but when you look at the shooting percentages, it is an argument that KD should simply get more fourth quarter shots. So all that might explain why KD was so determined to get his shot off on this possession, even though the offense didn't do much to get him open. While I like dribble pitch into ball screen action, it's something very common to the Spurs, so they are very comfortable defending it. Taking a one-footed runner with the right hand going to the left, twisting in the air, is simply not a good shot even if you are KD. To make matters worse, in transition, the Thunder do not talk and royally screw up their assignments. In a perfect world, Reggie would have sprinted over to pick up Diaw so Fisher could guard Kawhi and KD would sprint to Manu. Instead, no one picks up Kawhi, and when he penetrates along the baseline, Ibaka has to pick him up, and that means Derek Fisher has to pick up Duncan. The Spurs are experts in picking apart mismatches, and notice how they don't force the pass down low, patiently waiting till they get a good angle, and Fisher has to take the foul. Again, the Thunder run simple high pick and roll. Notice how KD is relegated to a Cephalosha-like spot-up shooter role, and when the initial action is contained, they've got nothing but individual brilliance of Russell Westbrook to isolate and get to the rim. Meanwhile, the Spurs come down and run horns and get the matchup they've been looking for all series long, a post-up by Duncan on a very average post defender in Ibaka. However, Ibaka comes up huge to block this shot, but watch how Kevin Durant completely loses his man and allows Manu to grab the offensive rebound and what could have been a huge nail in the coffin. However, in a stunning turn of events, Green throws an awful pass, Russ had been hiding behind Kawhi and makes an incredible play to steal it and finish on the other end. The Spurs run horns again, force a switch, and get a Manu drive on Durant. While Reggie doesn't really help one pass away, he does allow a middle drive to Kawhi, but recovers in time to pressure the miss. A great shot for the Spurs, but the Thunder get it back. Again, the Thunder relegate KD to a spot-up role. Russ is in a hurry and forces a pass that is simply not there, and then grabs a deflection and tosses up another bad shot completely out of control. He ends up on his back and simply takes too long to get to his feet and back into play. The Spurs take advantage and get right to the hoop. A beautiful series of passes leads to Durant fouling Duncan, then Ibaka hitting him across the arm, but curiously, no call. After KD ties it with 2 clutch free throws, the Spurs are in a good 2-for-1 position, and they want to take advantage of the height disparity between Fisher and Manu. Fisher is able to get away with being very physical, and Manu perfectly reads it to cut to the hoop for the layup. However, Ibaka comes over and blocks the shot after it hits the backboard. This ball certainly had a chance to go in as it hits the lower part of the backboard on the way up, and the refs completely blow this call. I want you to notice something interesting about this situation. OKC is all set to go, except they only have 4 players on the court. For some odd reason, Ibaka is sitting at the scorer's table, unaware of the fact that they're about to inbound the ball. Anyhow, OKC is now in a good 2-for-1 situation, and this time they don't screw around. Notice Green is guarding KD, who gets blown by easily. Duncan is late rotating, and it wouldn't have mattered since Diaw was also slow sinking down, and KD could have given it to Ibaka for a layup as well. The Spurs went from being in perfect position to close this out to on the verge of losing this game. There really wasn't much time for them to try a 2-for-1 without rushing a shot, and they run a very simple pin down from Manu. Does Duncan get away with an illegal screen? Probably. Do they ever call that type of foul in the last minute? Almost never. And give Manu credit, he hit the tough catch and shoot. And this got a bit surreal, but just look at the play itself. Russ cuts down to the corner. Was KD supposed to screen for him? Maybe the other way around? The Spurs do a good job to blow it up whatever they were running, and OKC ends up with an ISO at the top of the circle, and somehow KD just loses his footing. I had to recreate this vine from Iram since it was so genius. Of course, this graphic must have jinxed Manu, who can't quite ice the game. Here's a good play by the Thunder, which sets 3 screens for KD and opens up cuts for Reggie and Fisher, but Russ sees Danny Green on him instead of Kawhi and just gets right to the hoop for free throws to tie it. After the timeout, I'm sure the Spurs were worried about throwing the ball away, so they take a page out of OKC's book and ISO Manu out on top, whose shot is online but long, and Duncan's crazy tip is too late. Remember when I showed you Ibaka sitting on the table, not ready for the play? Well, watch him here as he does not know the play. He realizes late he's supposed to set a pin down for KD. Durant goes all the way around the court instead and is supposed to screen for Russ, but doesn't get anywhere near Kawhi. And this is a good example of how OKC's offense works. Individuals taking turns trying to create something. And it works here, getting Ibaka free throws. We've shown you all season long how bad OKC has been with their pick and roll defense when the guard forces the ball away from the screen, yet the screener's man tries to hedge. It happens again here with Russ and Ibaka, who again misses the play and isn't where he's supposed to be between Kawhi and the basket. Kawhi goes up strong, points his left shoulder into Ibaka's chest like he should, but the defense is too good and he misses. The ball gets tipped out and Russ takes off down the court. Remember, they're up by 2, so there's no need to go full speed, out of control, Euro step, left-handed scoop while taking off from behind the dotted line. But OKC gets control of the rebound, and again, this isn't a terrible shot from KD, but unnecessary, as they should understand clock management better and reduce the number of possessions, not increase them with shots so early in the clock. And here's where the wheels start to fall off. Russ goes flying in for the rebound. I get it, he's one of the best offensive rebounding guards there is, but he doesn't sprint back to pick up his man. And the real problem is that he doesn't call out for help, and his teammates have no idea Manu is about to get a layup. With Kawhi back on Russ, OKC calls no play and just isolates. I would have assumed KD attacking Manu was the better choice, but Russ gives a good shot fake and draws the shooting foul. With a small lineup in there, the Spurs forced Ibaka back onto Duncan, and it's their turn to isolate, only down low in the post. Duncan gets good position and draws his own 2 free throws. Like we showed earlier, attacking from out top with no movement makes it easy for the Spurs to contain the pick and roll since they start out in good position to defend. And again, it's relegated the best scorer in the NBA to role player spot-up status, as Russ makes a nice move, but misses the shot. Again, the Spurs are taking no chances with a lot of passes that could get picked off, and go at their best advantage. Duncan down low against Ibaka, this time scoring on a beauty of an up and under. And something got screwed up in this set, since it kinda looks like a double ball screen for Russ, but KD doesn't even try to screen, and I'm used to seeing a play like this where KD would then get a flare screen for an open shot, but Ibaka had already wandered down to the low post area, and KD doesn't get open. Kawhi helps one pass away and gives up a wide open three to Russ, who can't hit. On the long rebound, the refs end up calling a foul on Diaw that really seemed like incidental contact. Down one, OKC runs a pin down for KD on the left side of the floor, even though their bread and butter is normally on the right side and much lower down towards the right block. The spacing is not good, as they run this action way too close to the sideline, but they again benefit from the individual brilliance of Russell Westbrook to get a layup off the pick and roll. The Spurs get into some clever offense with a dribble pitch on top and flex action down low for Danny Green. Ibaka gets nervous and jumps way out onto Green, who completely misses Duncan wide open for the layup and/or pass to Diaw if KD helped out. Instead, a skip pass to Manu leads to a bad shot. Up by one, OKC runs an ill-conceived set when Ibaka sets a flat screen for Russ, but with Reggie in the strong side corner, there isn't much room at all to drive that way. Russ kicks it out, but Kawhi did a good job of not helping one pass away, and contests the KD 3 for the miss. Yet again, the Spurs go right down low to Duncan. Ibaka doesn't do a great job to force him to catch it farther from the hoop, and on his turnaround fadeaway, there is enough contact to warrant a foul. Throughout the overtime, we saw KD hang his head from exhaustion, and I want you to look at how Scott Brooks played him. He got to sit for the last minute of the first quarter, the last 5 seconds of the second, and that was it. It almost doesn't matter if you have the best scorer in the NBA if you can't find him 5 minutes of rest somewhere in that second half. Again, same ill-conceived pick and roll for a variety of reasons, and Russ again just shoots it without making one pass. The Spurs come down and run a bit of a triangle set, but when it gets back to Duncan on top, it gets a little stalled. This gets a pick from Manu, and the Thunder switch this. While Manu can beat Serge off the dribble, he certainly can't get the ball to go in the hoop fast enough, as Ibaka just erases it. Down one with under a minute, now it makes sense for the Thunder to attack and get an easy shot, which they do until Kawhi makes the play of the playoffs. Coming from behind, he gets his hand on the ball and knocks it out of Westbrook's hand, preventing a surefire layup and lead change. Because the Spurs push it up, Ibaka must take Manu, and the Spurs waste no time in exploiting this because Tim Duncan is now being guarded by Reggie Jackson. They don't force it till they have a good pass, and even though Russ almost makes a heroic play to get the steal, I was really impressed with how calm Duncan was during this sequence to get himself balanced and knock down the turnaround fadeaway. Down 3 with 19 seconds on the clock and one timeout left, the Thunder must be thinking a quick 2, then foul. It's good basketball sense to extend the game and give yourself more possessions. But what play do they call on the out of bounds? They run a double staggered pin down for KD that appears obvious to me it was for a 3. And to make matters worse, KD waits way too long to begin his cut, forcing Reggie into calling a timeout before he turned it over on a 5-second call. This was just bad on a lot of levels, from coaching to execution. Now the Thunder have no timeouts, so it makes the idea of a quick 2 then foul a little harder, but it still should be done. There is plenty of time to get the ball up the court after the free throws. But instead, they run another play for the 3 ball, and they actually catch Duncan sleeping. He shouldn't care about Ibaka getting a 2, and should have been a lot higher to contest this 3. When it misses though, the game is just about over. Diaw splits the pair of free throws, and this is a prime opportunity for Russ to do one of his patented coast-to-coast layups in 5 seconds.
but he doesn't recognize this, even though look at the whole right side of the floor that's open for him. He ends up taking 6 seconds just to throw the ball off the top of the backboard, and their season is over.
So there you have it, sports fans. OKC has not shown a foundation of good decision making for several years now. And it could very well be that the coaching staff's hands are tied based on the personnel. Perhaps Ibaka can't handle anything more clever. Perhaps Russell Westbrook doesn't want to listen. Perhaps Scott Brooks doesn't try. It's a bad mix. And the only solution they might have is to wait for the Spurs, the smartest team in the league, to get old enough where the guys retire and they don't have enough to reload. But that is not a great recipe because you never know what next team is going to slide into that position, sign another big free agent, and just be better than them anyway. So it's a real interesting conundrum they have this summer to decide if they want to upgrade the roster, upgrade the bench, or sit tight and hopefully wait for the Spurs to get old enough where they retire. I don't know. We shall see what happens in the next couple months. It should be interesting and exciting. And I know if I'm excited about the finals because we get a rematch. And this will be an epic one without question, probably going another 7 games. So don't turn that dial. Stay tuned here on Twitter and on YouTube and everything because at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?